Okay, so I thought I'd make a video log of the install of a Kraftwerks Supercharger kit for my 2016 Subaru BRZ. Car is really new. I think it's only got about 3,000 kilometers on it, but it's the first thing that I did. So yeah, I did it all myself. Kit came in pretty much with everything you need. The only additional things that I bought were an oil catch can. Yeah, that's about it. Actually came with an oil cooler as well in the kit. So let me just walk you through the main components and a couple things that I did that I need to remember that I did later. So hopefully this is helpful to you as well. So firstly, the disassembly of the car. Obviously you have to take the bumper off. I didn't jack it up, didn't think it was necessary, and it really wasn't. The only thing that was kind of annoying is when you drop tools, which you will, it's a little trickier to get underneath to grab them, but small thing. So hey, when you take the bumper off, first thing you gotta know is there's this little light right here, and it stays in the bumper. It just comes off the car. There is one clip, like right up there. It's one of those kind of plastic pull clips that pops off. That's it, just pull that one clip off, and then the light will come off on the bumper. Just careful of the electrical when you pull the bumper off. It's connected here with these tabs, and you just kind of got to pull it out as you take the bumper off. It feels a little bit scary because the whole thing's plastic basically, but it comes off with not too much force. So, but it is a little bit scary. You have to remove your windshield washer reservoir. It says to drain it first, but I took it off and drained it afterwards. Found that was easier. The one you're looking at now is the new one, of course. You will need to remove all the plastic bits up front. Keep the lower plastic bit on, but otherwise remove the side bits. Remove all the plastic up front too. It doesn't really say to you, but get it all out of your way because it's easy to put back on afterwards. So once everything's off, the first thing they ask you to do is really, do some basic kind of move some hoses around and follow the instructions pretty good. First kind of trickier bit would be your crank pulley, and I'm showing you it right here. That's the pulley that goes on top of the crank pulley, which drives the belt for the supercharger. When you pull that crank pulley off, first put the car in 6th gear, put the e-brake on nice and firm, and what I did is I had a little crowbar which I was able to wedge against the frame rail and one of the holes in the crank pulley, and that just kept it extra solid. You'll need a big breaker bar. So if you don't have one, go buy a big breaker bar for 16 bucks at Princess Auto. Make the job a lot easier. And then when you tighten up that bolt, make sure you got a torque wrench because it's got to be torqued to, I think it's 95 foot-pounds or something like that, but read the manual. Next part was really getting the snail on, and it went on really easily. Instructions are really clear. Make sure you remember to remove the red caps that go on the ends, otherwise that'll be problematic. The oil cooler had lots of different options with how to run this thing. The instructions, said to mount the oil reservoir back beside the battery, which it went okay. I had to kind of fab up like a little bit of a bracket. So it came with the rings there that kind of pinch around the reservoir. I just took a long bolt and then used 4 nuts so that I could thread it into a little hole there that was supporting the battery up. So I kind of made myself a little thing. It works pretty good. It's nice and clean. So I thought it was a good solution. I ran both the oil cooler in and out on the, as I'm looking at the engine on the left side facing the car. As you'll read, oil comes out the bottom, of course, comes over across, and then you'll note that I put the oil filter, I zip tied it right to the middle front of the car. Instructions actually say to put it somewhere underneath the supercharger unit, but that was super awkward, and I saw a guy in line do this and I thought, wow, it's perfect, easy to get at, and it doesn't seem to be in the way of anything. So of course comes out the bottom, comes through your filter, goes into the oil in port, comes out the oil out port, routes down, around the outside of your radiator, and then what you can't see behind the intercooler is the oil cooler unit. Goes into the oil cooler, out the oil cooler, up around the left side of the radiator, and then routes around and then pops back into the reservoir. So take your time on that one. That took a lot longer than I was perhaps expecting. So that was that. Next up was the charge tubing. So that was easy, I thought. The only couple tips I have for you is the very first step. They ask you to put on this kind of molded pipe first, and you're gonna wanna connect the bypass and the vacuum valve, which you can't see, first before you put this on, because there's just no way to get your hands in there to get it all tightened up. So do that first. Everything else should go on easy breezy. Hey, the vacuum line, so you can't see it, but underneath this bypass, this is your blow-off valve, underneath there's a little vacuum line. It's a small, thin, it's actually right, if you can kind of see it, it's a small piece of tubing. I routed that around the right side of my engine, all the way around back, and you're supposed to intercept your brake booster. So I did do that, but instead of cutting my brake booster, I just removed a metal joiner piece and then installed my T there, and then that's how I did that. So that was a good solution. Again, I saw that in a forum online, which I thought made a lot of sense. Can't believe everything you read on forums, of course, but if it's logical and makes sense, then yeah, I took the chance with it. Lastly, so when I was doing the charge and tubing, one thing I noticed they didn't have in the instructions is, I'll grab my light here, is they didn't tell you to remove that thing, which I think is your ambient air temperature sensor. It's right in the way of the intercooler. I removed it, played around with the bracket a little bit, and then reattached it so it could catch some fresh air, that had come from the outside like it was before, but I had to move it out of the way. So a little bit of creativity, not that difficult. What was a little challenging was this thing. So I bought an oil catch can. You can get them for about $50 on eBay, but I read that they were a pretty good idea. And one really important thing of note, since you're boosting your engine, is you have to make sure that you have a valve, like a check valve, so that air can only flow one way. So you want the bypass, which comes from your PZV, up through this catch can and then back into the engine intake. You want that to only be one way, because obviously if you're slamming a bunch of air, right, you don't want it to blow back out again and into the engine inappropriately. So definitely make sure that you install that. Even if you don't have a catch can, you'll need to break up this hose and put in that one-way valve. So and it should go this way, right? So air should not be able to be forced back down by the immense pressure that should be blowing into your engine through your new supercharger. So yeah, that was really it for my install. It took me probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours. I wasn't really counting, but I'd estimate something like that. All by myself. I didn't have any help. I just kind of tinkered away at it every once in a while. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good kit. I haven't driven it yet. Haven't got it tuned yet. I did get the ECU Tech tuning option with it. So that's next up, is to get it all primed and get my bumper back together. But I thought I'd make this little video log while things were somewhat visible, so you guys could kind of see how I routed things. And I will update the video or put comments or something below if if I find I did something wrong. And if you think I did something wrong, please by all means let me know. I'm hopeful that I'm really gonna like it. So thanks. Talk soon.